In just 63 days, Victorians will go to the polls. And so what, many may ask. And while all elections have consequences, this November and its consequences are some of the most important that this state faces. Because November 26th isn't only an election about who governs the state, but the corruption and cronies in senior roles of the Victorian Public Service. Cronies weaponised as politicised mechanisms used to protect Daniel Andrews. And one of Andrews' cronies' name that should ring a bell is Rebecca Falkingham. Falkingham is running Victoria's dysfunctional Department of Justice, and quite an interesting character. Many doubt her suitability to run a department like DOJ, but she is. So we need to ask, what are her qualifications and her experience? Her LinkedIn profile suggests none, and sources close to Falkingham also suggest her profile's been edited. Edited maybe because she didn't want to appear boastful. That seems reasonable. Well, think again. Sources who know Falkingham suggest otherwise. Her limited or unknown qualifications may be just that, limited. When what is known about Falkingham is her experience appears not only limited, but lacking in suitability if these sources are correct. But like everything Labor, the world has discovered many who work as political advisors aren't highly experienced. Servitude and doing your bit for the party definitely brings with it rewards. Being a party political apparatchik, rewarded for handing out how to vote cards, doesn't qualify you to be a political advisor, but in the Labor sphere, it appears it does. Now, remember Chris Eccles, Andrew's trusted subject who ran the Victorian Public Service? Well, Eccles, when working for the New South Wales government, also had Falkingham working with him. Nepotism is strong in Labor politics, and following Andrew's 2018 election victory, Eccles appointed all departmental secretaries from the Department of the Premier and Cabinet who work for him, and that includes Falkingham. What's fascinating is experience, especially in roles, senior roles, like those with the DOJ, is vital. But Falkingham appears to have none, with experience appearing irrelevant, and the rot in the Victorian Public Service and DOJ is traceable back to December 2018, not only with Eccles appointing Falkingham, but how Falkingham's behaved. The extent of nepotism is akin to corruption, because in December 2018, Falkingham's creation of a board of management saw her undertake a plan designed to eliminate 12 existing departmental secretaries. She made all 12 reapply for the jobs, and by doing so, allowed her to get rid of anyone that she didn't want. The result, 10 sacked and 2 left several weeks later. Falkingham then appointed previous cronies from DPC, changing its name to the Department of Justice and Community Safety. Safety indeed, but definitely not for the community. Falkingham DOJ insiders describe her behaviour like the red wedding scene from Game of Thrones. Her no-shame purge targeted men from senior to low-level management, as well as experienced people. It also led to her doubling of executive staff, where wages now run at 1.25 billion per annum for a single government department. And anyone who speaks out or dissents is sacked immediately and escorted from the building. An example of Falkingham's failings is highlighted by the number of CIOs turned over in just 1 year. Four CIOs either left or told her the feasibility and timeframes of the projects that she had were unrealistic or impossible. Well, all projects undertaken have crashed and were never delivered. The new Cherry Creek prison went from a 228-bed to a 120-bed facility and is 5 years past its completion date and has doubled in budget. Corrections has collapsed. Prisoners are running riot and prison guards are stripped of authority. 3 cronies in 3 years have been appointed to corrections, and all have had limited or no experience. The new appointed head of corrections, Ryan Phillips, also has no experience. With a new board of management in place, Falkingham went on a hiring spree, doubling DOJ numbers. And her first pick happened to be, you guessed it, an ex-DPC management colleague, former New South Wales colleagues, friends of ALP members, ALP staffers with gender-biased kids with no or limited experience. This isn't how a justice portfolio should be run or has ever been run, but it seems so in Falkingham's world. There's no room for cultural or ethnic diversity or for people with disabilities or those from a non-English speaking background. But there is room for wet behind the ear 27-year-olds being paid $400,000 per annum for their first professional job. Not bad if you're a Falkingham Labor lackey. So why does someone only hire those she knows or have a political allegiance? So incompetent is Falkingham. She was responsible for rejecting the ADF's request to assist with managing the hotel quarantine. And guess who protected her? Eccles. Instead, Falkingham offered corrections staff $60 per hour to do the job. And since Falkingham took the top job, justice has collapsed in Victoria, and it's a basket case. And she's presided over the worst law and order failure in Victoria's history. And yet, she's paid $550,000 a year and wields significant power and influence within the Andrews government. Falkingham has created such a catastrophic mess in Victoria and the state that we may never recover. But where there's a will, there's hope. Come November 26th, that hope lies with Victorians voting against Labor, and by remembering these names: Andrews, Molino, Pallas, Sutton, Patton, Eccles, Falkingham, Phillips, and Patton. And the list goes on. Remembering those names will be the catalyst and trigger, because corruption and cronyism in Victoria must come to an end and say, no more Dan Andrews.